I could not care less about the detective or the prosecutor's origin story. Like, it makes you so angry. It makes you so absolutely seething angry. That man was living on his own fantasy the whole time. The one thing that is on my mind the whole time that hasn't been explained yet is how the DNA is in the knife. Hello everyone, my name is Joe. Welcome back to the channel of Delusional Theories. Obviously, no delusional theories today. I keep saying this in videos and it's like, am I losing part of my identity? But I'm not, because Only Murders in the Building is returning and my crazy ass theories will be returning. First point, I'm gonna get it over with from the beginning of the video, because I think this is one of the biggest points of discussion about this show is, like Good American Family, if you remember that one, this is perfect for my audience for those videos. I think the biggest point that everyone was talking about this TV show is it worth making? Like, was there a point to making this show? Was it needed? Like, was there a necessity to talk about this topic and this situation yet one more time through a different format? And through what I've been seeing, I read a couple articles, the kind of majority of opinion is that it was not necessary. There was no point to doing it. The family of the victim, the person who was actually offed, did not want it to be made. It didn't make any sense to them because the story was told, and so on and so forth. After watching the first 4 episodes, and I will talk about how biased the perspective is and how that affects the story and our perception of the story told through this perspective. But even with that, even with how clearly biased it is, after watching those scenes of the interrogation and everything that happened afterwards, I understand why she wanted to make it. Because Amanda Knox was part of the production team of the TV show, and it's clear from the inclusion of the 2022 part of it, and even just from the fact that she made this show and she wanted to make it, to me, it's clear that she's not over it. It's very clear that she has not completely recovered and probably never will, because sometimes these situations are just like this. And it's clear that this is still a very significant part of her life. And after watching those scenes, I understand why she did it. Like, I understand her wanting the public to see or to even experience one iota of what she felt. Like, if the scene at the statement where they are doing all of that together to provide a statement of what happened and accusing whoever they want her to accuse, like, if one fraction of that happened, I would feel justified in never shutting up about it again. Because, I mean, she did spend 4 years in prison. And I know there are theories out there that say that she was guilty and whatnot, but even so, like, even if she was guilty, the way that the press immediately focused in on her, and then the actual person, the actual guilty person whose DNA was, like, literally on the murder scene, the only DNA that was actually there, was completely off of the media. Like, that part of it is insane, because even if it was like a 3-way crime, the fact that one of the people with the most DNA, the most types of DNA present, was not in the story was insane. So all of this to say that even though it probably doesn't make sense to reiterate this story one more time from the perspective of the actual victim, because, come on, the family has had enough. It was publicized enough. Leave them alone, you know? But on the other hand, I understand why she wanted to make this. Like, I understand why she wanted to portray it in this way and to show this aspect of what she went through that is so visceral and that you can hear about it many, many times, but until you actually see it, it's hard to imagine, you know? And I haven't consumed pretty much anything apart from this TV show. I mean, I know somewhat the story and I read a few articles about it, but that's pretty much it. So I don't know how in depth with the description of what happened she has gone. I can imagine pretty deep into what happened. But Yeah, that's, I guess, my little 2 cents on should it have been made or not. Um, I understand why she wanted to show that part of the story and to show how absolutely infuriating it is. Like watching it is like you feel the anger, and I know it's on purpose. And they are portraying this perspective in a very biased way on purpose to get us very angry, the same way she must have felt angry about all of this and frustrated. But my point is, I understand. Was it necessary? Who knows? Maybe it was necessary to her. Maybe she needs people to know that this is how it was. But who I feel had some responsibility in leveling her in this case would be the producers, because I can imagine her family like wanting all of this. I can imagine her family supporting her through all of this. But the producers of the show, the people like who are actually giving her an opportunity and a platform to explore her story one more time, were the ones responsible for probably leveling her and trying to, level or balance the perspective of the show if they were to make it. And I don't think they did that. They did it that well. I will talk about it in a second. But the final point, I think, is that the victim's family say, like what the victim's family say should be a very, very strong opinion to take into account in making these shows. For example, the situation with Pamela Anderson in the show that was made about her, if she didn't want it made, they shouldn't have made it. I think that if the person is still like, the people and the family and those involved, if they are still like here around and they do not want these things about their life, if they don't have, and I mean, she doesn't have control over it. She didn't have control over when the thing was released and everything like that. I don't know. I feel like these productions and these shows owe something to these people, that they are making a show about their entire goddamn lives, And with this one about Amanda Knox, and because the whole thing is about Amanda Knox. Like, it's barely about what happened to the victim. And I mean, like, a woman was murdered pretty brutally, like to such an extent that the police on the scene had a hard time looking at her. So, I mean, you do owe something to the family. You do owe a level of respect and decency to the family. So, from my point of view, I understand why she wanted to do a show like this. The family should have had a bigger stake on it. Like, they could have talked about it and discussed what would be okay and not okay, and how far they would be willing to go to allow Amanda to tell this part of the story and to show this aspect of the story and still not be too intrusive. I mean, I feel like there could be like a midterm way that the family could still not need to be exposed to all this once again, and Amanda could still be able to tell this story in this way to get whatever she needs out of it. But yeah, I do understand why she did it. Like, after watching those scenes, it's hard to not understand why she needs people to know that that's how it felt. But yeah, let's talk about the biased perspective of the show. It's strange. Like, I read a review, I think it was the BBC or the Guardian or something like that, where were very critical of the magical realism aspects in the show, because it was trying to like emulate Amelie, and it was a bit weird. And I mean, it was a bit weird, to be honest. They are trying to make the point that Amanda was like such a weirdo, such a freak, that it was easy to, like, put a spotlight on her and judge her for freaky nature or something. And I mean, it is an important point. And I do think it's important in this story because it just gives you a little bit of perspective, especially in Italy. Still, like, it's where the goddamn Catholic Church has their throne. So there is aspects of, being conservative and being prudish in Italy still to this day. So I do understand like how Amanda's freaky character is an important point for framing the story and what had happened. But the magical realism and playing Amanda sometimes very childish, or like, I don't know how to explain it, but there was a vibe. There was like a clear bias towards a very innocent, naive Amanda who just wants to help the police, and then the completely villainized police. Like, you could see that there is like a bias here. There's like a filter put on both of these groups of people, and also on the prosecutor. And I mean, they did get in contact in real life. They did email for a while, and she did get closer to him. And there was the meetup, like the meetup in 2022 did happen. So even his side of the story is biased in a way, because the point of view that we see from him is that he did not know how they attained the statement, like the confession, the accusation of Patrick. This prosecutor like spends the whole time just believing that the police conducted the investigation in a decent way. And it's his perspective, his biased ass perspective, is that he never knew that they abused her and mistreated her in that interrogation to get that confession. So it's clear. I mean, come on. You're the prosecutor on the case. You've worked with these people for a while, and you don't know that they are capable of that. And you think that they are completely, like, I think it's a bit ridiculous to me. And I don't know, like, what statements have been made about this. I don't know what the investigation has, concluded about this. But it's a bit silly funny to me that this prosecutor didn't know what kind of methods, or didn't imagine what kind of methods they used with Amanda in that interrogation. Bit silly funny to me, to be honest. That is a biased, filtered way of telling even his story. And it's telling because she knew him in real life. And she's a producer on the show, so 1 and 1 equals 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So in general, from the 4 episodes that I've seen, and honestly, I might not even watch the next 4 episodes, because I was like midway through my 4th and I just stopped it and went to bed because I could not take this anymore. It's so, like, it makes you so angry. It makes you so absolutely seething angry. I was done with it midway through episode 4, but then I did finish it. If I do a review of the next 4 episodes, it's going to be at the end of the season for sure. I'm not going to be watching this weekly and feeling this angry weekly. Like, no. Thank you very much, but no. But what I feel so far about the show is that it is a good show. Like, I'm not having a good time, but I'm having a good viewer experience, I guess. The suspense is good. The way that they are telling the story and the little details they leave behind for the audience to catch that the police didn't catch and stuff like that. It's being like well told. The fact that there's always like every like 20 minutes of the show, there's some police officer or detective coming to the prosecutor saying, "We have bad news." And it's like, oh, who would have thought? This is a good show. It's kind of like Good American Family, to be honest. If you liked Good American Family, you're going to like this for sure. Point 4, I could not care less about the detective or the prosecutor's origin story. You know that the origin story is simply there because real life Amanda has talked to this man, and he probably told her why he was so, against her because of all the sexual stuff. I was going insane at that part, but I don't care about his life story. I don't care about his backstory. It's clear that it's only there because he knew Amanda and Amanda knew about his story. And I mean, it does frame the reasons why he was so hard on Amanda. It makes it more understandable, I guess, but it's not justifiable. Dude, you've been working on this field for how long, and you just keep ignoring all the evidence to pursue your little fantasies of catching a horrible killer? Terrible police work. How, like, having a weird ass backstory through living next to the female prison and all the crime that happened when he was growing up does not justify this kind of behavior, this kind of incompetence. That man was living on his own fantasy the whole time. Point 5, the discussion about how public perception can literally change people's memories of what happened and who she was, was insane. But this is more present in episode 4, like at the end of episode 4, but it was a good discussion because we have seen this in real life. Like in the past, there was like this idea of, child stars going insane or getting on drugs or having bad behavior. And there were so many kids that, like, as they grew up and started having more defiant behavior, were destroyed on the media. So we've seen this. We've seen how the way that media can sensationalize a case affects the way that the public actually looks at that case. And in this case, they were like batshit crazy about this. And I mean, the impact of the press, especially the international press, on the investigation was there from the beginning. It was there from the day that the prosecutor went to the house to investigate. So, like, this discussion has only just started. I'm sure it's going to go wild in the next 3 episodes. But this discussion of, the press, because they want to have a field day, because they wanted to have good stories, they will blow things out of proportion and exaggerate what doesn't need to be exaggerated. And then because the public responds positively to the stories, because they read them and they want more, they just, it starts escalating to a point when it's absolutely freaking ridiculous. And then the public just freaking goes with it. And in the case of this trial, it literally affected the result of the trial because people's perception of her changed the moment that she was convicted of the crime. And it's like shown through the testimony of Meredith's friend. It's shown through the testimony of her own friend. And I don't know how accurate that part is. I'm assuming it's accurate. Like, I'm assuming she's telling the story from an accurate point of view. But that was insane. Like, the fact that the public perception of her can have an influence in the people who are actually not only testifying for the court case, but actually making decisions on her culpability or not is insane. And she even said it in the show, like, that the jury, I think it's the jury, doesn't have to stay out of the news while the court case is going. They can watch the news as they are going to court. That's silly. That's really silly. But yeah, that part of the show, the media influence on people's perceptions, great conversation. I like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all of my thoughts on the show. And if I do end up reviewing the second half of the show, it is going to be at the end of the season, so in a month, more or less. Let me know if you want that, and if you are watching this show. I'm sure that the people who are here for a Good American Family are probably watching this as well. I was not aware of this case at all, even though I am just a few countries away from Italy. But I was young. Like, this was in 2009, 2007. I was like, 10 years old? So, of course, I didn't care. I'm pretty sure I've seen a film like this before. So maybe I have seen something about this, but only in fiction. But yeah, I'm so angry watching this show. I can't imagine how she felt. Like, the one thing that is on my mind the whole time that hasn't been explained yet is how the DNA is in the knife. I'm assuming that, like, Meredith went to his apartment one day to cook or something, or there was like some hangout that explains the DNA there. But that's the one thing that I'm like, how? Because that's their biggest evidence, right? Is the fact that Meredith's DNA is on the knife is on the guy's knife with Amanda's fingerprints. I think it's after that evidence is thrown out that they are released, right? And that's my biggest question so far. How did it get there? That's what I want to know. And I'm not going to read anything because I'm going to watch the show. So catch me here in the month, maybe. Bye.